Benchwarmers, thanks for joining us on a special, how do I say it, end of the week, blank game week, double game week, chaotic fantasy week podcast episode. My name is Diego, and I'm joined tonight by Marco and Erik on the bench. Guys, I hope you guys are doing good. We're going to go over some strategies for the blank game week, which I'm sure some people have been wondering about and have questions for. And we're also going to see an update on our Benchwarmers Fantasy League, where there are some shifts, some major shifts. One of us is very happy for moving up. The other one of us is a little bit unhappy for letting the gap widen. And as for me, Erik's already sipping his tea. As for me, though, I'm sitting pretty, and I'm continuing on with the league. Just to remind you guys, a friendly reminder, we're
Did you plan that?
Did I plan what?
Oh, I must have heard something. I thought you said something between Marco and the you said the gap got bigger, or the gat got bigger?
Yeah, the gap.
I heard gat
got bigger.
Okay, the gap.
Yeah.
Okay, I heard gat because Marco's listening to gap pretty bad. So
in the past it was pretty bad. Now anymore. And if I can catch him once, I can catch him again. So
I was about to say,
we'll get to it. Don't worry.
Man, he's just rubbing salt in the wounds. What'd you do to him?
Little scratches, little cat scratches. That's it.
I'm fourth second for everyone to consider me right now. I'm happy right now, baby. I'm happy.
You're not first or last.
Just a friendly reminder where you can find all of our episodes. So you can check Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Google Podcasts by searching Benchwarmers FC. Watching all of our content. Marco, where can they find it?
They can find it on YouTube at Benchwarmers FC TV.
And they can interact on our social platforms by searching Erik.
Make sure you follow us, give us a comment, give us a like, let us know when you want to join. We do have some special guests coming on, just talking footy. So we want you to also come on, talk footy, all through Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, Benchwarmers FC.
One. The Blank Game Week 18. Here we go, boys. This is going to be a preview of Blank Game Week 18. We're going to go over a little bit of how we did in the last one. And the early reminder to tell everyone listening to this episode, I'm going to put it in early. The deadline for this blank is Tuesday. We have a midweek game week right now. Tuesday, 6 matches going on, possibly 5, but it'll be Tuesday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern, the deadline for this week. So we're going to track back a little bit. Game week 17 was a ridiculous, chaotic mess of a game week with postponed games, canceled games, injuries, hauls by certain players. So just starting with myself, I did okay, 64 points. Just above the average, and I'm sitting in 4th place. I got knocked down by one of our very own, and he joins me today, Erik. Erik had a pretty good week. How'd you go for game week 17? What was your total? Who are your star performers?
Total for me was 72 points. My star performers of the week were Tierney, man, 18 points, Son with 13 points, and I had Bruno as captain. Got 10 points on the day. So overall, great week. I'm happy. I am finally paying attention this year and, reaping the benefits of it, man. See what happens when you actually try.
Yeah. Listen, we've been telling you that over and over again. Marco, how did you do game week 17?
I did decently. I'm not going to lie. I did above average, slightly though, but not enough. So I did drop. I went from 13th to 18th, I think. So that's a little hard to see, but you know what? I got up there once. I'll get that up there again.
Yes. That's a good attitude to have. You did cut the gap between him and Gat, who we're also checking in. Gat had 77 points. We'll be having Gat on shortly on the Fantasy Pods just so that we can finally bring this to fruition, this challenge that's going on between the two. But going over how the last game week went, like Erik had mentioned, there were some players that had really good performances, Tierney being one of them, and Tierney being the player that I'm going to bookmark for later on when we have our conversations for the blank game week. So moving on really quickly, the watch list. I have 6 names going on the watch list this week, players that I'm looking at, not just for the blank, but for moving forward. Tierney as well, the first name right there after that Arsenal match, put a pin in his name, only 5.3 million. The 18 pointers shows that he can get involved with the attack, but also with the clean sheet previously and increasingly more defensively solid performances. Tierney, I think, is a good one to have, as well as the fact that he's putting in plenty of crosses. That was something that Arteta and Arsenal have been mocked for in the past few game weeks. But for fantasy-wise, just putting those crosses in, it's always going to be good to see that, because if you hit 1 or 2 out of 100, those are good points for you, especially from a defender. Smith Rowe, another Arsenal player on the watch list, 4.4 million, an enabler. This is one that I'm putting on there because we like to see players like this in the midfield, especially if you want to have Smith Rowe as your 5th midfielder, even if you play him or not. He's so cheap that he allows you to spread your money out, and he gives you more value just for being so cheap. He has been more involved recently. Personally, I would like to, if I were to pick up a Arsenal midfielder right now, it would be Saka. It would be Bukayo Saka. I wouldn't be too hasty to bring in Smith Rowe. But if you want to look at him or have him on your watch list as well for the weeks coming, I think he's going to be a much more involved player. Tyreek Mitchell is someone that I've had since the beginning of the season, and unfortunately he got dropped for Van Aanholt to my dismay. And I was of the personal opinion that Hodgson should have kept him on because they've been losing clean sheets like crazy. I think they've only had 1 clean sheet in the last, I think it was like 12 or 13 matches prior to this past game week 16. Mitchell played, they got a clean sheet. Mitchell played again, they got a clean sheet. He's been looking good. 3.9 million because he dropped in price. A lot of people had him in the beginning of the season because he was only 4 million. He's a young guy, but he back-to-back 90 minutes is always a good thing for a cheap defender. Cancelo from Manchester City at 5.7 million. He's a solid defender, and looking at how he did the performance against United in the EFL this midweek and the performances of late shows that he's been a great attacking threat. He was very, very, very unfortunate, in my opinion, to not have scored during their match last weekend, City. So Cancelo is, I would say, the attacking fullback that you would want. You could also go for Ruben Diaz, who's been solid. That Stones-Diaz partnership has been a revelation for a lot of people who are looking for that stability after seeing Liverpool's defenders being stretched out and losing clean sheets so often. So Cancelo is definitely a name that you want to look out for. Mikel Antonio, 6.2 million. I'm waiting on fitness for Mikel Antonio. David Moyes is also waiting on his fitness. But I think that having Antonio on early would help you out, because especially with the sale of Sebastian Haller, who was basically their main forward, I have a feeling that Antonio is going to be forced to get back on the pitch sooner rather than later. So that's going to be a good pick, I feel, for the future to come. And then Pedro Neto, I have him on there, 6 million. He's been the main forward for Wolves. Podence was definitely someone that I had on my mind, but he was dropped for some reason in the last few weeks. Neto has been certainly overperforming and been their consistent goal threat, so he's one from Wolves. 5 players that I'm dropping from the watch list this week. Matt Target from Aston Villa. He's on 4 yellows, so 1 more he'll have to serve a suspension. El Ghazi looked hot. He was on a good streak, but I just feel like he's probably one of those players that will not perform once we get him into our teams. And honestly, if I were to get anyone from Aston Villa, it would be Jack Grealish, no matter what, who I already have. Richarlison, he's been slacking as of late. Calvert-Lewin has been drying up on the goals. So I feel like that partnership, if it goes bad, Richarlison just isn't worth it for his price. Rodrigo has been taken off early. Rodrigo Moreno from Leeds United has been taken off early in the last few games. So if I were to have anyone from Leeds on the attacking side, it would definitely be Bamford, as have like 40 or 50% of the other teams in fantasy. And then Chris Wood, someone on there, I had mentioned, I remember in some previous fantasy episodes, that having a punt on Chris Wood with Burnley because they had such easy fixtures would have been, I guess, a bit exciting, but he's not even that exciting as a forward, like as a player. So Chris Wood, he's off the list for this week. I do have a template for everyone wanting to get through the episode together with us as kind of like a boon to stick around, or you can fast forward if you just want to hear the draft that I've put together for game week 18. It's going to be very template. And one of the first things that I want to bring up, guys, are you guys using your free hit? So Erik, Marco, I'm using mine. I already activated it early. I should have probably waited, but I just bit the bullet. And the reason why I'm asking, before you guys answer, is there could be another postponement. So Aston Villa playing with their U23s today against Liverpool and their U18s, it gives a higher likelihood and chance that their game versus Tottenham Hotspur on the blank on Tuesday, Wednesday will probably be postponed. There are just different rules for the FA Cup than there are for the Premier League. So most likely that game may be postponed because as I was just chatting with the guys off stream, off air, 10 of those 14 positive cases are first team players in the Aston Villa bubble. So that is not good news at all for the team. However, free hit, back to the main question. Do you guys have it available? Are you planning to use it, or are you planning to use it in the future? What do you got, Erik?
I already used it earlier on. I believe it tells me I used it game week 3, man. I used it really early because I was struggling in the very beginning, if I recall correctly. So I'm actually happy with my team, honestly, man. I got a few drops I got to make, but luckily I have 2 transfers saved up, so I'm good on that end.
Nice, that's good. Marco, what do you got in terms of free hit?
I have to use it. There's no ifs, buts about it. I have only 5 players, I believe, 5 to 6 players on my team in total. So I'd rather just use it now. It's the perfect time. And I can bring a decent squad in. But I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait until Monday because I want to find out if the Spurs game is going to happen or not.
That's smart. That's smart. So one of the first notes that I have for you guys, Erik, you wanted to add?
I was just gonna ask Marco actually. If you're gonna wait till this Monday, are you gonna consider waiting until the end of the transfer window in case anybody else comes in?
Well, when is it? Isn't that at the end of the month?
Yeah.
No. For the free hit, it's just for 1 week. So
I was saying, would you consider waiting for like the end of the transfer window to see who comes in? Like if a big player comes into one of the Premier League sides, they may want to like just gamble on.
Yeah, no. I'd rather take my gamble now and then to wait because I don't even think there's gonna be much transfer window happening this year. So no, I'm not gonna take that gamble. Wait.
I think to Erik's credit, maybe holding on to your chips for the future could be a strategy that you may want to use if you still have them available. But addressing first what I wanted to say with the free hit is if you still have one, like we have in this small gathering right here of us 3, there are players that have already used them. So instead of trying to guess or go too crazy with your team selection or worrying about, oh, we're all going to have the same team, there are still players out there that may have already used it or may not have it available. So just playing your free hit and having it active is already a differential in itself. So there's going to be a lot of movement, I would predict, this blank game week 18. A lot of green arrows, red arrows, a lot of shifting in points because technically players will be available to some and players will not be available to other managers. In Erik's case, however, he does have a decently solid squad of players that do have fixtures in 18, which is honestly, it's lucky. It's good planning, if anything. And if you find yourself in that position, I'll address that in a little bit. So there's no need to be too picky with your selection. You have to be too cheeky with your picks. It can be self-sabotage if you're trying to say, oh, I'm going to put someone who, I'm going to take a crazy punt on, I don't know, let's say like Joe Ellington from Newcastle. Like, yeah, that looks like an easy fixture. Just keep the big hitters. Look for the big hitters. Focus on those guys. And then that'll make sure that you move with the pack. And then everyone else that doesn't have it, they'll eventually fall below you as the games progress. Second one, and I already addressed this, is the postponement with the potential postponement of Spurs versus Villa. We're going to have to probably wait and see until almost Tuesday to have a confirmation, but I have a feeling we'll have a good indicator by Monday night, if anything, which is when some of your planning can happen, if that game will be postponed. Is it worth playing the free hit if there's only 5 fixtures instead of 6? I think absolutely, because some managers may not even have the free transfers to utilize to fix their teams up. So you may as well go for players that are going to go all out and go for a formation that's going to maximize your game week. So keeping chips this season, what do you think, Marco? Like, if I pose the question to you, how do you feel? Do you think it's best to use your chips now or to hold them on for the long term, like later in the season? Things like your wild card, for example.
Yeah,
I'll make it specific.
For the wild card, I would wait. I don't see a purpose to use it now. The only reason why I'm gonna use my free hit is because I don't have players to play this week, and I need to make up some points, man. So I don't know if guy in this case has used his or not. If he has, it's best for me to use it now to try to catch up. If he hasn't, then he might do the same, and then it's gonna continue the battle. So, but for the captaincy, for the triple captain, and for the other one, I think it's you should wait at least a little bit longer.
I think there's some merit to that with again mentioning the chaos, not to sound too cliche, but all the craziness that's been happening this season specifically, and primarily coming from COVID and from injuries to all the Premier League squads. I think it's worth holding onto your chips for as long as possible and just navigating the chaos with your free transfers. Erik, you mentioned you had 2 free transfers. You have a good block of about 8 players I see on your team right here that have a fixture. I think before you go into who you're looking at, I think if you find yourself in a similar position, the minimum of active players that I would gamble with, if you don't have your free hit, would be between 8 and 9. If you have 8 and 9 players on your starting 11 that are going to play, and you have maybe 1 free transfer, if taking a -4 or a -8 is going to fix your team up, so you have at least 8 or 9, 10 or 11 players is best, but 8 or 9, a good solid block of players, just do it. Like everyone else that's going to have a free hit is going to use it. They may not take a hit, but at least you'll move up with them. And then instead of being down 30 points for not using your free hit, you're only down 4 because you took the extra free transfer and took a hit there. So I think that's a good way to kind of like self-inflict a bit of damage so that you keep in check with everyone else. So Erik, you have some transfers, you have your team. I'm looking at it as well. So who are you looking at to maybe give me one position that you're looking at to upgrade for your game week, blank game week 18 squad? You have a pretty decent squad though. I'm looking at it right now. It's not that bad.
First, let me know if I'm glitchy or anything, because on my side, I'm very, very laggy right now. So just let me know if I stop on your end by any means necessary. But I am gonna drop Calvert-Lewin by the most likely. He's been off the mark for me recently. I'm not sure who I'm gonna pick up, who I'm gonna switch him with, because I do have 1.3 sitting in the bank. And as far as I wanna reinvest that money, get somebody maybe a little bit more expensive, and then swap somebody in the middle. I'm not sure who yet, though. Honestly, I'm with the weekend being a FA Cup weekend. I'm gonna take some more time to analyze my squad and see who I can drop. But for the most part, I want to keep the core of my team. Like as far the midfield, I don't want to touch that at all. Maybe just the attacking players I want to touch.
So yeah, I think that's pretty decent. You do have Salah, which despite him not playing, I think that he's worth keeping no matter what, because a lot of us have value tied up in Salah. He's probably risen quite a bit if he's been on your team for a few weeks. Fernandes is good. You do have Tierney, that's a shoe-in. He's also on my template as well. Southampton, they've been looking pretty solid, even though Walker Peters doesn't have a game. But you do have some backup with your other defenders on your bench. I see you have Mitchell as well. So maybe even looking for some defenders to kind of shore up your team. If you have 1 free transfer, 2 free transfers, switching 3 or 4 of your players automatically gives you a good solid set of team members to choose from. Marco, you said you're considering free hit. You're probably going to go for it. Do you have, let's say, 2 players that you're looking at that you definitely going to have in your squad that aren't in it right now?
Damn.
How about this? Would you be considering, because I see you don't have any City players, would you be considering bringing in Manchester City players?
I was considering bringing De Bruyne in, but not only him, I also was considering bringing Saka in.
Okay.
Because again, it's just it's one time, 1 week, 1 game week. So, I don't want to, like Erik said, there's my midfield is stacked, man. I mean, I have Salah, Son, Fernandes. So like, I really don't want to touch it. That's my core right there. So, For this week, yes, De Bruyne will be the one to come in, and Saka will be coming in. But I have to wait until Monday because there's a possibility that some might not even be in it, and then I'm gonna lose 3 other players within my own team.
Right.
Because I
That's
have
smart.
Grealish, I have Mings, and I have Martinez.
Right, and you'll have to swap them out
So
with
that's
your free
4.
hit.
That's 4 players right there, and I have 6 that are playing. So
yeah,
I have to wait until Monday, man.
I mean, here I think that's smart. That's a smart way to go for it. One thing that I'm going to explain, maybe even for players that are just getting into fantasy for their first time, it's a very valid question on specifically how does free hit work. So free hit, if you haven't played it yet and you still have it and you activate it now, the team that got you points for game week 17, that will be your team reverted. So you can make as many substitutions, as many transfers as you want when your free hit is active, and you will not take any points hits. And then once game week 18 is over, after the deadline passes, then your team will go back to what it was for game week 17. So I've seen some questions, and I've seen also in some forums where people ask, well, what can't I just make 2 free transfers or use a free transfer and then use my free hit? Let's say you want to bring in De Bruyne for the long haul, or you don't have Fernandes yet and you want to bring him in, or you look at some of the Arsenal players and you want him in for the next few game weeks. If you make those free transfers and you use your free hit, unfortunately, it will not save them in your team because the deadline already passed for game week 17. That team that got you points last week is the team that you're going to get back on free hit. Now, like Marco said, and this is very important, if you use free hit, it's only for 1 week. So if you're going to go for it, I say swing. Go for players that you feel like you may not have for the long run, but they're going to probably do well in this blank game week starting on Tuesday. Just go ahead and go for them. You know, one person that I was thinking even for Erik, if he wanted to, was there's a lot of movement for Lacazette. Lacazette has been kicking up for Arsenal, and Tierney putting in those crosses for Lacazette. It looks like a pretty good game for Arsenal against Palace. Now, the bad thing here, without wanting to jinx it, of course, because it means points for me as well, because I have these players on my draft, is that they're playing against Crystal Palace, if I'm not mistaken. So that Palace match, Palace has looked a little bit better defensively, but they still have issues. So whether I would want, for me, for example, Tyreek Mitchell as a defender to keep a clean sheet, or for Saka and Lacazette to get in on the goals on like a 2-1 win or a 3-1 win, I would prefer that because more points are there to be had. And plus, Mitchell, I would just keep there anyway because he's so cheap. There's no point in me selling him for someone else because he's probably not going to play anyway, especially considering my formation. So again, free hit, just 1 week, just for blank game week 18. Go for the players that you want. You won't lose any value on the players that you had. So whereas Erik would be making a traditional transfer, if he takes out Salah, he'll lose that value. Marco, if he takes out Salah just for game week 18, he'll come back in game week 19 and you retain the value that you had originally. Especially if Salah happens to go up, that value would be added on and reflected at the end of the game week. So not to be too, I guess, crazy or complicated here, I'm just going to get into the template so we can end this episode for fantasy on blank game week 18. So this is just a draft. So again, don't blame me. Marco can't blame me. Erik can't blame me. This is just a suggestion. Any and all inflictions to your points totals will be completely of your own volition. These are just, again, what I'm thinking and what I'm looking at. So as a goalkeeper, I have Darlow. So Newcastle's goalkeeper, Carl Darlow. Darlow looked fantastic in the last game week, and he made some fantastic saves in their match. And he looked on it. Some other players have been looked at, like for Emi Martinez for Aston Villa, although they're playing Spurs, I wouldn't really go for it. You could put in maybe Zach Steffen, or you can even put in probably De Gea. Burnley doesn't look like a threat. However, I would stay away from De Gea specifically because I think Burnley's forte is set pieces, and United just have not been able to defend set pieces for their life. So anyway, Newcastle against a toothless Sheffield United, 0 wins on the season. I think Carl Darlow is going to be a good punt for the long run. That's just who I have my faith in. My formation is going to be 3-5-2, so 3 defenders, maximizing on the midfielders, and then 2 forwards on that line. So doubled City defense, Cancelo and Diaz. I think Cancelo and Diaz are going to do the dirty work. I still don't trust the Man City attack, but I'm going to take a gamble because, again, it's blank game week and it's free hit. You don't really lose much. Kieran Tierney is going to make up my 3 back line because I feel like Tierney against the Palace side is just going to look good. Yes, there is always going to be a Zaha threat, but I'm hoping that 3 wins on the bounce means greener pastures for this Arsenal team instead of just, a good run of form to save their blushes. Going right into my midfield, I'm keeping Bruno, even though I'm free hit. I already have Bruno. I'm bringing back in De Bruyne. I had him a few weeks ago and I dropped him because he just wasn't performing. I think De Bruyne in his last match, what was it? Just so I'm not mistaken here and I don't start to speak BS like Erik said. In the game against Chelsea, he had a very, very, very forward position. Like, I remember laughing to myself that he looked more effective than Timo Werner in his false 9 position, playing as a forward. And in his post-match, actually, Kevin De Bruyne, he actually confirmed that Pep had asked him to play in the false 9 forward position because he knew that De Bruyne had some experience there during his youth days. So Pep took a gamble, and it paid off for De Bruyne, 13 points. Rashford, I have Rashford. I put him in early on. He might change to someone else, but the next player I think might make way. That's Heung-min Son. I have for my original team Bruno and Heung-min Son. But again, like we were mentioning, Spurs might get postponed, so Son might make way for someone else. I'll see who I'll have to pick. Really, the crop isn't that great for players, but we'll have to take a look. And then Saka is going to round out my midfield 5. So Bruno, De Bruyne, Rashford, Son, Saka, those are my midfield 5. And then up front, I have Lacazette and Callum Wilson. So Callum Wilson, just because he is Newcastle's main guy and scoring goals against the last place team, I think that deserves, like, that just screams gamble. Like, throw some money at that and hope it hits. Lacazette is a bit more of a focused effort because of, again, the reasons that I've been saying: Tierney's crosses, their improvement of form, and the fact that I think he scored 4 out of their last 5 or 6 goals. Like, they were scored by Lacazette. So he's been kicking up. Could you take a gamble for Aubameyang? Absolutely. Could you take a gamble for, I don't know, Sterling or Gundogan? Absolutely. Again, I don't think the point here is to be too cheeky with your picks. I think the point is just to go ahead, pick a solid base, and then decide 1 or 2 players. One thing I want to warn you guys, and I want to warn our listeners, try not to triple up on too many teams. We could see postponements. This is not just for blank game week 18. This is for the season. I think the times of having 3 players from the same squad, as we saw with the Spurs match, is not going to be beneficial because 1 postponement, that's already a third of your team wiped out and 0 points. You're not making that up. So I think maximum, if you really want to bank on good form off of team, you should keep it max 2 players. I'm definitely staying away from a double defense. I'm only doing it now for this blank because, again, it's a free hit with the double City defense. But looking at people that had Reguilon, looking at people that had Dyer, there's also the last minute wipeouts, like Chelsea scoring in the 92nd minute. So that just happens. That's part of the game. But I'm talking about postponements and having too many players on your team from certain squads. So that wraps up what I'm looking at for blank game week 18. Some of the names that I would count out, in my honest opinion, and what I believe, I think Kane, you could choose Kane, but again, the postponement is a big one, and he's very expensive. So just keeping Kane out, if you go from Kane to Lacazette, for example, or Kane to Wilson, or Kane to Calvert-Lewin, although I'm kind of iffy on that, it frees up a lot of cash. Grealish is also a good one to have in midfield, the main attacking threat for Aston Villa, but I don't think he'll fit in with some other premiums. So, guys, this is the end for Fantasy Pod Game Week 18 preview. The blank, I hope it brings you a lot of luck. And Marco, I hope you make up the ground in your challenge versus Gat, crossing fingers. Erik, you've had a very unorthodox approach to your last few game weeks that has actually paid off very well. So we're going to see if that continues for the rest of the season. I appreciate you guys coming on the episode and going over fantasy. Good luck to everybody. Again, another reminder, just for anyone that may not have listened to previous episodes, we've made the decision to lock our Benchwarmers Fantasy League after game week 19, which is the halfway point. We would remind everyone, if you want to join, if you would like to join, if you have friends that want to join, we always put the code in the descriptions of our videos for the fantasy, which you can join at any moment between now and then. After that, we're going to lock it, and then whoever wins will get a special prize from us here on the bench. So Erik, Marco, thanks again. We're the Benchwarmers. This is the bench with a voice, where the bench is always warm. Peace, guys.
Peace.